Ever scrolled through like your feed and wondered like why some content just grabs you and then other stuff, just disappears into the void?
Happens to me all the time.
Oh, get this. A friend sent over this document and it was called
Mm.
CV equals E times T times C times I times X dot PDF.
Okay.
And it claims to have a formula for figuring out content value.
A formula.
I know, right?
That's,
It's a bold idea.
yeah, a bold idea for sure.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued,
Yeah.
but also,
It's intrigued, but I'm also a bit skeptical,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. Quantifying something as complex as content value.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a tall order.
Yeah, it seems like a very tall order.
But that's why we're diving in.
Okay.
This document breaks down this formula. It explains what each variable represents and how they all work together. So let's see if this thing holds up. And maybe we'll even walk away with some tips
Yeah.
on how to boost the value of our own content.
Yeah. I like it. Sounds good to me. A framework for thinking about content value could be pretty useful.
Okay, so the formula goes like this. CV, for content value, equals E times T times C times I times X. And they're all multiplied together, which is super important.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right.
Yeah, a multiplicative structure. It
Yeah.
means every single factor is crucial.
Right.
One weak link
Yes.
and the whole chain falls apart.
It's like baking a cake.
Yeah.
You can't just use a ton of sugar
Right.
and expect it to be amazing if you skimp on the flour or eggs.
Yeah.
So let's break down these ingredients for valuable content.
Okay.
First up is E, which stands for
Effort level.
effort level, yeah.
And the document defines effort as the effort units invested
Okay.
in creating the content.
Mm.
The idea is that there's a linear relationship between effort and value. So you put in twice the effort, you get twice the value.
So basically it's saying hard work pays off.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. But how do we measure effort units
Mm-hmm.
in a practical way? Like, are we talking hours spent,
Right.
resources used,
Right.
or something else entirely?
Yeah, that's where things get a bit tricky. The document kind of leaves that open to interpretation, suggesting that effort units could represent,
Okay.
things like hours spent researching, writing, editing,
Yeah.
or designing visuals. It's all about quantifying the resources you pour into your content.
Okay, so it's not just about
Yeah.
time spent staring at a screen.
Right.
It's about,
It's about the actual work you put in.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes it a bit clearer. But then we have T,
Okay.
which stands for
Time investment.
time investment, yeah. And this one gets a little counterintuitive.
Right, because we've all heard the saying, work smarter, not harder.
Right.
The document acknowledges that more time invested
Mm.
doesn't automatically equal better content. Sometimes spending too much time can lead to, overthinking
Yeah.
and diminishing returns.
It's like when you try to cram for an exam the night before. You
Okay.
might spend hours studying, but you're not really
Yeah.
absorbing the information effectively.
Exactly. It's about using your time strategically,
Okay.
focusing on the tasks that truly enhance the content's value, rather than just racking up hours for the sake of it.
So quality over quantity
Yeah.
is key. Next, we have C, which might be the fuzziest one
Yeah.
to define, communication effectiveness.
Absolutely. This factor delves into how well the content delivers its message
Okay.
and resonates with the intended audience. But measuring communication effectiveness, not always straightforward. It requires a
Yeah.
nuanced understanding of things like clarity, conciseness,
Right.
and audience engagement.
Right. Because you could put in a ton of effort and time.
Right.
But if your message is muddled
Yeah.
or just doesn't connect with people,
Right.
then what's the point? How do you even measure something like that?
Well, that's where things like user feedback, engagement analytics, and even like qualitative assessments come in. You need to go beyond just your gut feeling and look at how people are actually responding to your content. Are they sharing it?
Right.
Are they commenting, starting discussions? Are they finding it valuable?
So it's not just about putting your content out there. It's
Right.
about making sure it's actually landing with your audience.
Yeah.
And speaking of impact, that brings us to
Yeah.
the impact multiplier.
And this one's a bit of a
Oh, boy.
multi-headed beast, breaking down into subfactors, RS, L, and the intriguing ES.
Oh, I saw that. Yes, I thought, oh, boy, here comes the complicated math.
It does get a little bit
Yeah.
complicated.
So break it down for us. What exactly are we dealing with here?
So R, S, and L are likely shorthand for metrics related to reach, shareability,
Yeah.
and likability, though the document doesn't get too specific on those.
Okay.
But ES, engagement saturation, that's where things get interesting.
From the formula, it looks like it has something to do with diminishing returns, right?
Exact.
Like the more you're exposed to something,
Exact.
the less impact it has over
It's
time.
like that first cup of coffee in the morning,
Yeah.
that initial hit
Yeah.
is powerful, but the second cup has less of an effect.
Okay.
And by the third, you're probably not feeling much of a difference.
Okay, that analogy definitely helps.
Yeah.
But the formula itself, ES equals 1 minus E to the power of negative K times exposure units,
Yeah,
still seems a bit intimidating.
I understand. The key takeaway here is that the impact of your content isn't just about how many people see it, it's about how deeply they engage with it.
Okay.
And that engagement tends to plateau
That's
after
right.
a certain point.
Okay.
The K in the formula is a constant that determines how quickly that saturation kicks in, and calibrating that constant would require a good chunk of data analysis.
So it's not just about going viral.
Right.
It's about creating content that truly resonates and has a lasting impact. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the final factor, X, which stands for experience.
Yeah.
And this is where your friend's model introduces a logarithmic formula.
It does.
X equals 1 plus the natural log of 1 plus years of experience divided by 5.
Okay.
Whoa. Is this where I need to dust off my high school algebra skills?
Don't worry. The concept itself is simpler than the formula might suggest.
Okay.
It boils down to this. Experience matters,
Okay.
but its value increases at a decreasing rate over time.
So like the difference between having 1 year of experience and 5 years
Huge.
is way more impactful than the difference between 25 and 29 years.
Precisely.
Okay.
The early years are crucial for building those foundational skills and knowledge.
Mm.
But as you gain more experience,
Yeah.
the incremental gains become less pronounced. You're still improving,
Yeah.
but the rate of improvement
Yeah.
slows down.
Kind of like those diminishing returns we were talking about.
Exactly. Kind of like those diminishing returns we talked about earlier.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got these 5 factors: effort, time, communication, impact, and experience, all multiplying together
Right.
to give us a content value score.
Hmm.
But before we start plugging numbers into a spreadsheet,
Right.
I think there are some important things to consider about how this whole model works.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that's been bugging me is how independent these factors really are. I mean, wouldn't someone with more experience naturally be better at communicating their ideas effectively?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And it highlights one of the limitations of any model like this.
Okay.
It's trying to simplify a complex system.
Right.
And in doing so, it has to make some assumptions that might not always hold true in the real world.
Right, because content creation is a messy, creative process. It's not like a factory where you can just plug in numbers and get a predictable output.
Exactly. The interactions between these factors can be tricky to untangle. More experience might lead to better communication, but it could also lead to overconfidence or a tendency to overcomplicate things.
It's like assuming the amount of spices you use in a recipe is completely independent of the cooking time.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a flavorful analogy.
Sometimes they work together
Yeah.
harmoniously, and other times they clash spectacularly.
And it brings up another challenge, the difficulty of actually measuring some of these factors.
Yeah.
Effort and time are relatively straightforward, especially if you track your work diligently.
Right.
But when we get to communication effectiveness and those impact sub-factors,
it gets hazy.
That's where things get hazy.
Yeah. How do you put a number on how well something communicates?
Right.
Or how deeply it resonates with an audience? It seems like a lot of subjectivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can use data points like engagement metrics, shares, and comments, but those don't always tell the whole story.
Right.
Sometimes a piece of content might not go viral, but still have a profound impact on a small group of people.
It's like that book that only a few hundred people have read.
Right.
But for those readers, it was life-changing. The numbers don't capture that kind of impact.
It's those hidden gems that often defy quantification.
Right.
And then there's that can a constant in the engagement saturation formula.
Yeah.
Figuring out that sweet spot where engagement starts to plateau seems like it would require a ton of data and fine-tuning.
So it's not a plug-and-play kind of formula.
Right.
You need to constantly adjust and refine it based on your specific context and goals.
Exactly. And that leads us to another key consideration, the question of universality. can this model really be applied to all types of content across different industries?
Right.
What constitutes effort for a blog post is going to be different from the effort required to create a video game or a musical composition.
Right. A 5-minute animated explainer video might take weeks of work to produce,
Yeah.
while a 3,000-word essay could be churned out in a day by a seasoned writer.
And the intended impact can vary wildly as well. A social media post might aim for quick virality, while a scientific research paper might seek to influence a specific field of study over years or even decades.
Right.
So while this formula provides a helpful framework, it definitely needs some contextual adaptation to be truly useful.
It's like a basic recipe. You might need to adjust the ingredients and cooking time depending on your oven and the desired outcome.
Precisely. But even with these limitations, I think your friend's model has some real merit.
Okay.
The multiplicative structure itself highlights a crucial point. Content value isn't about excelling in just one area. It's about striving for balance across all these factors.
Yeah, it's like a reminder to not get so caught up in one metric, like views or likes,
Right.
that you neglect the other crucial elements.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself, am I putting in the right amount of effort? Am I using my time effectively?
Yeah.
Is my message clear and engaging? And am I considering the potential impact of my work?
It's like a checklist for content creators,
Yeah.
prompting us to think more holistically about what we're creating and why.
Yeah.
And maybe even for content consumers, too. Like, how do we decide what's worth our time and attention?
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
On the consumer side, this model could help us become more discerning about the content we choose to engage with. Are we passively consuming whatever's thrown at us?
Yeah.
Or are we seeking out content that genuinely informs, inspires, or challenges us?
So it's not just about creating valuable content. It's also about being a conscious consumer of content.
I agree.
This deep dive is really making me rethink my entire relationship with content, both as a creator and a consumer.
It's amazing how a simple formula can spark such a wide-ranging discussion.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the power of models and frameworks. They can help us challenge our assumptions
Yeah.
and see things from a fresh perspective.
It's like putting on a new pair of glasses
Right.
and suddenly seeing the world in
Yeah.
a different light. Even if this particular model isn't perfect, it's given us a valuable starting point for a deeper conversation about content value and its many dimensions. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this model so far? What stands out to you as particularly insightful or potentially problematic? And if you could add another factor to this equation, what would it be and why? We'd love to hear your perspective.
That's a great question, and it's
Yeah.
one that I think deserves its own deep dive.
Let's do it.
So stay tuned, because we might just explore that very question
I like it.
in a future episode.
This is good to me.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this conversation has shifted from dissecting a formula to examining our own roles in the content ecosystem.
Yeah, for sure. It's like this formula has given us a new lens for evaluating.
Yeah.
Not just the content itself,
Yeah.
but also the intentions and motivations behind it.
Precisely, as creators, we're challenged to go beyond chasing vanity metrics and think about the lasting value we want our content to have. Are we simply trying to grab attention, or are we striving to inform, inspire, or spark meaningful conversations?
And as consumers, it encourages us to be more mindful of the content we choose to let into our lives.
Absolutely.
Are we passively scrolling
Yeah.
or actively seeking out content that aligns with our values and interests?
It's about recognizing that content consumption is not a neutral act. It shapes our perspectives, influences our emotions, and even impacts our behavior.
Wow.
So choosing to engage with content that is well-crafted, insightful, and aligned with our values becomes a way of investing in our own personal growth.
That's such a powerful way to put it. It's like we're curating our own mental diets, selecting content that nourishes our minds and helps us grow.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
And this model, even with its limitations, gives us a framework for making those choices more consciously.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of feedback loops between creators and consumers.
Okay.
As creators, we need to be receptive to feedback, whether it's through comments, shares,
Right.
or even constructive criticism.
Right.
And as consumers, we have a responsibility to engage thoughtfully, share our perspectives, and support creators who are producing content that we find valuable.
It's like a collaborative dance where creators and consumers are constantly shaping and influencing each other.
Yeah.
And the more we understand the dynamics of that dance,
Right.
the more likely we are to create a content ecosystem that is vibrant,
Yeah.
diverse and enriching for everyone involved.
I love that analogy. It captures the essence of what we've been exploring, the interconnectedness of content creation and consumption,
Yeah.
and the importance of striving for a balance that benefits both sides.
This deep dive has been such a mind-expanding journey. We started with a seemingly simple formula,
Right.
and it's led us to a profound exploration of the value of content and its impact on our lives.
It's a testament to the power of curiosity and critical thinking.
Yeah.
By taking the time to unpack this model, we've uncovered insights that go far beyond the formula itself. And hopefully, those insights will inspire you to approach content creation and consumption with a renewed sense of purpose and intention.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we'd love to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If you were to add another factor to this content value equation, what would it be and why? What element do you think is crucial for creating truly valuable and impactful content? Let us know your thoughts, because who knows, maybe your idea will spark the next deep dive.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like how much power we have as consumers to shape the content landscape.
Totally. It's like a vote with your attention.
Exactly. Every click, every share, every comment is a signal to creators about what kind of content we value.
And that's a lot of responsibility. It
Mm.
makes you realize how important it is to be intentional about what you consume and who you support.
I think it's empowering too, though. You're not just passively receiving information, you're actively shaping the conversation.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
we're all co-creating this massive, ever-evolving story of human experience.
Exactly. And this model, even though it's just a starting point, gives us a framework for thinking about our roles in that story.
A framework for thinking, a framework for creating, a framework for being more mindful consumers of information.
It's a lot to unpack, but I think it's worth it.
I agree. This has been one of our most thought-provoking deep dives yet.
It really has, and I'm so curious to hear what our listeners take away from this conversation.
Right. What resonated with you? What challenged your assumptions? What new questions did this spark for you?
And if you had to add one more element to this content value equation, what would it be?
We want to hear from you, so share your thoughts, leave a comment, start a discussion. Who knows, maybe your idea will inspire our next deep dive.
I'm already looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep those minds engaged.